Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday, July 9th meeting of the Blackstone-Millville Regional School District School Committee. I'd invite you all to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome. We'll start with introduction of members, and we'll start at this side.
Sarah Williams, Blackstone.
Karen Vernon, Millville.
Jack Keefe, Blackstone.
Bethany Dunton, Blackstone.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Jane Reggio, Millville.
Jason DeFalco, Superintendent.
And welcome.
Thank you. It's great
Glad
to
to
be
have you on board.
here. Great to be here.
Okay, public forum. Okay.
Brave people.
We'll give you another. Consent agenda A, I would like to add an item. It should have gone around for folks to see. So we have the warrants, we have the minutes of the meeting from June 28th, and I would like to add a C item, the reimbursement of the student activity fee account in the amount of $10,121.37. Is there a motion to move consent agenda A?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Jack, seconded by Karen. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Great. All set. School Committee FY19 budget discussion. So just, Dr. DeFalco may have some updates as well, but just kind of a brief where the process is at this point. As you know, at our last meeting, we made a motion to move to a district-wide meeting. Part of that district-wide requirement is for both members of the boards of selectmen of each town to come together to decide a moderator. And we sent letters to each of the communities, and they are not able to gather until the 24th of July. But when I spoke with Dr. DeFalco, we thought that if we waited until that meeting, that would push us way into August, and really too late to move this out with the 1/12 budget, since we already are getting stuck there. So we thought it would be important to tonight at least determine the best night for that meeting. We had another requirement is to have both town clerks present, and I have reached out to both of them and gotten their schedules. And so we are looking tonight to set the date of that meeting, and we will have to have another meeting to actually approve the warrant, but that will be just a very brief meeting once we have the official wording for the warrant. So we'll have to set that coming up soon, because it has to be at least 14 days out of our meeting. So we're looking at Wednesday, August 8th. Does anybody have any particular concerns about that date? When are you back at school?
28th.
All right.
Got time.
Are you in town?
I believe so.
Okay.
And then on the 9th, we have another meeting, correct?
On August 9th?
We do.
I think that's the retreat.
That's our retreat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 7 p.m., is that too late for folks? And at the high school auditorium and potentially the cafeteria if we overflow?
Mm-hmm.
That sound good?
Yes.
So I will entertain a motion to hold the district-wide community meeting on Wednesday, August 8th at 7 p.m. at the Blackstone-Millville Regional High School Auditorium with overflow into the cafeteria. And I know Jesse is going to work on how we figure out how to make sure everybody can see, hear, and talk if it overflows. So would somebody like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sarah, second by Jack, to hold the meeting on Wednesday, August 8th, 7 p.m. in the Blackstone-Millville Regional High School Auditorium with overflow into the cafeteria. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes.
Are we going to do childcare?
Where
It's
would
always
we,
asked.
where would we do it? In the
Well, it
library?
depends. Well, the thing is, if we can't have the cafeteria, where will we do it? But it's always
Library.
asked ahead of time, so.
Library Media Center?
That'd be a good place. There's room.
Because, so parents can come out at least.
Do we have any students or,
We can try.
what?
Yeah.
Oh, the gym.
I think we should at least try to get get kids to come out and help us. Or
The
even-
gym would be good, it'd be hot. But,
Yeah,
all right,
I think it's worth looking into.
Mm-hmm.
okay. Well, we will
Parents with high school
get
kids.
some kids who need community service
Yeah,
hours.
find kids who need community service.
Community
hours. There's
service
gotta be a
hours.
bunch of them. Or parents who have high school age kids who might be willing out of the goodness of their hearts.
Well, if they have 18-year-olds, hopefully they're registered to vote and they'll be at the meeting. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of Wednesday, August 8th at 7 PM at the high school signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So we will let the towns know, and as they seek a moderator for us, they will know that August 8th is the date that we need that moderator. And as soon as we have the wording for a budget, we'll post for another very quick meeting. Okay. That's all we have, so Dr. DeFalco.
Great, thanks, Ms. Reggio. Good evening, everybody. First, we just need to vote to approve surplus from the middle school. We have in your packets a list of items that will need to,
Go away.
yeah, essentially have them go away or move forward with them.
List.
I don't know if anybody has any questions on those. It's a fairly lengthy list, but you'll see it's a-
It was in our packet last time, too.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions? So I'll entertain a motion to approve the surplus list.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Bethany, seconded by Jack. Any other discussion? All those in favor of moving these items to surplus signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So discarded.
Excellent, thank you. Next item is a discussion on roof projects and sewer completion closeout. And so before I have Ms. Cobb speak about the specifics, in your packets you have essentially a recap or a summary from Jim Eckert, who is one of our accountants, who has gone through some old accounts and with the goal of reconciling and closing out those accounts. And so there are a few projects that you will see a narrative summarizing with quite a few different numbers connected to that. And so essentially we're looking at the JFK AFM roof project, the BMR High School roof project, the Millville roof, and then a sewer project. And so in your packets, you also, or on Friday, received essentially what we are referring to as kind of the headlines, or really the takeaway from all these numbers. I'll have Ms. Cobb explain the numbers themselves to you and where they came from. Sure. You got it? Thanks.
So, just want to make sure everybody has a summary sheet. We'll start from here. So this piece of paper listed all the capital project as a summary, and as you can see, they are 5 capital projects, and the first column is the balance after we close out. There are $8 left in the middle school building project. $190,602 are left from the JFK AFM roof project, and negative $1,452 left on the high school roof project, and negative $9,494 on Millville roof project. And the sewer project has $35,372 left. And the second and the third column is the Blackstone and the Millville share of all the project. So we will have motions to close, yeah,
these accounts
close
and reimburse.
those accounts.
So the town of Blackstone would receive a reimbursement of $180,200?
Yes.
Yes, correct?
Yep.
And the town of Millville, $8,809?
That's right.
And
That's
our E&D, 35,000 whatever.
372.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's on a different page. 35,372 and 39 cents. Oh, it's right here too.
I have it listed here.
Oh.
I already wrote the
You
motion.
did?
Yeah.
See? Thank you, Wen.
Yep.
Okay. So this is a motion for preliminary results to transfer the balance of the following revolving accounts to E&D account. Oh, this is
It's,
different though.
Yeah, the second
different.
motion and the third motion.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yep, all right.
So, Mr. Agard's summary is very straightforward. If you have any questions, we have him on the phone.
Oh,
Yeah.
we have it
No,
right
no, we
now?
will.
Oh,
We will
can.
if
No.
we have questions.
Does anybody have questions about the roof project closeout or the sewer? Again, we got it last week too, so.
Yeah, so just to summarize again, 180,200 will go back to Blackstone, 8,809 will go back to Millville, and $35,372 will go to E&D. Is the recommendation.
Okay. Do you want to continue? So we do all these at once, or do you
Yeah.
want to do those first?
Why don't we, do you want to do these all?
Oh, the ones, that's
Yeah,
fine.
why don't we do these all at once?
Okay, all right.
So do you want to pause that piece and come back to?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right. So if there are no questions on that piece of it, we'll shift gears and review a facilities update. In your packets, you also received 3 letters from the Mass School Building Authority that are essentially outlining a response to 3 potential MSBA projects that we've submitted or put in for. And so, again, the summary points for each one of these projects. So for Millville Elementary School, they have been authorized to go into the schematic design process for their boilers. JFK was partially approved in advance of the next level, or approved rather for partial window, door, and boiler replacement. So they have been moved to the next phase of the process. And AFM, unfortunately, did not meet the requirements, so they have not been invited to participate in the MSBA project at this time. And for the high school, we are still waiting to hear back on the core renovation project that we have submitted for. So that one is still on hold, but each of the letters in your packets outlines the details behind the reasoning for either the partial or, the advancement in the schematic design or the not being accepted at all into the pipeline at this time. Any questions on? Okay.
Anyone have any questions? No? Okay.
So moving forward to agenda item 5D, talking about FY18 closeout. So there are really 2 pieces of work that, or 2 discussions that we're going to have this evening on that. The first is, more or less the closing out of the books for this fiscal year, which Ms. Cobb will go through. But the second part of it, I think, is equally as important, which is really taking a look at the closeout of FY18, the projections for FY19, and then looking at essentially how we can start to chip away at that $1.5 million dollars in cuts that we had to take as we went through the budget cycle this past winter and spring. And so once we get through the closeout of this process, we're going to talk about kind of that linear perspective or that view on closing out the books this year, what that means for FY19, knowing that we still don't have a budget yet. But of course, hopefully that will be settled on August 8th. And then looking at how the projections will impact that and where what we're looking to restore. Because we will be able to restore some of the things that we cut in the spring. So we'll open that up for conversation as we start to work through both the closeout and the actual numbers for next year. Ms. Cobb, do you want to take us through that process?
I think we should start from the motions to close
Okay.
out the year.
Okay.
So we have so the first motion shows that we have a balance of Medicaid reimbursements, is
Yes,
that?
yes.
Of $73,805 that we'd like to move into the E&D account. Okay. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I can make that motion.
Okay,
Want me to read
Karen?
it? Or do we need to read it?
N-
I'm motioning that we transfer the balance of the Medicaid account, right? In the amount of $73,805
Yeah.
to E&D.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so it was moved by Karen and seconded by Bethany for preliminary results to transfer the balance of following revolving accounts to E&D, and that's the Medicaid account, $73,805 to E&D. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. All right, the next motion looks at the closing of those capital projects, the roof projects in particular. But when, you'll have to tell us what these funds 12, 15.
Yes, sorry. So go back to the summary page. Fund 12 is middle school building project.
Okay.
15 is JFK AFM roof project. 16 is high school roof project. 17 is Millville roof project. And 25 is miscellaneous revolving account, which we close to E&D every year.
So we will entertain a motion to close the following capital projects. Balance Fund 12, $8.48, which is the MES. Roof project, Balance Fund 15, $190,602 for the JFK AFM roof project. Balance Fund 16,
High school roof.
high school roof,
project.
but that's not a balance, that's a
It's a
negative.
negative. Yeah.
$1,452. Millville
Roof project.
roof project, balance fund 17, $9,494, and that's also in the negative. And fund 25, miscellaneous revolving, $4,047.27. Of those funds, 180,000, okay, I just lost the sheet that I had. Thank you. $180,200 would go back to Blackstone. $8,809 would go to Millville, and does the $4,047.24 go into E&D? The last fund,
No, yes.
Yes.
Go back to E&D.
Yes.
That's correct.
would somebody like to?
Jane, if I
Yeah.
may.
Yes, you may.
You said the balance fund 12 was, you
Oh,
doubled
middle
Millville.
school, did I say, sorry, middle school.
That's all though. I'll make the motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Bethany, okay. So it was moved by Jack and seconded by Bethany to close the following capital project accounts to general fund, balance fund 12, $8.48 for the middle school project, balance fund 15, $190,602 to JFK AFM roof project, balance fund 16, a negative $1,452 from the high school roof project, balance fund 17, negative $9,494 for the Millville roof project, and Fund 25 miscellaneous revolving, $4,047.24 to the miscellaneous, from the miscellaneous revolving account, clearly. Of that money, $180,200 would go to the town of Blackstone, $8,809 would be reimbursed to the town of Millville, and $4,047.24 would go into E&D. Is there any other discussion?
I'd just like to ask something to clarify. The money going back to the towns, is that money we've borrowed and haven't used or haven't yet borrowed?
We borrowed, haven't
Okay,
used.
so we already have it, and we're just giving back, okay.
So the towns allocated it in their annual town meetings. It went into the roof project account, and then now that account's being closed, so
Yeah,
it's.
the only thing I didn't know was whether
We actually
they,
got the money?
whether they pay it when we, if we send a bill to them and they pay it, or we get the money from them and pay it. So I wasn't sure whether the money goes through us or not,
It did.
but it does.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
And in the summary sheet in your packet, you'll see an explanation of where, how each one of those projects was assessed and, you know,
Okay.
where we were able to spend down, where we over assessed, that's why we have extra money left.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Then the next motion we will entertain is to return the balance of the sewer capital project to the E&D account of $35,372.39. Somebody like to make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, Sarah? Second?
Second.
Jack? It's been moved by Sarah, seconded by Jack, to return the balance remaining of capital fund project account to E&D, and that's the balance fund 13 for the sewer project, $35,372.39. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. And then it looks like we have estimated receipts of special revenue funds, Medicaid to the FY19 budget.
That's on the back page. We use Medicaid $60,000 every year to offset the
Oh.
budget.
Oh, on the last page of the budget,
Yes,
okay.
back page.
All right, so, to use $60,000 from Medicaid, $2,000 of interest to the FY19 budget, and that's in the certified budget amount that we already approved. Would somebody like to entertain that motion?
So moved.
Bethany, second?
Second.
Okay, Bethany and Karen.
Back to update.
It was moved by Bethany, seconded by Karen, to apply estimated receipts for the following special revenue funds to the FY19 budget: Medicaid $60,000 and interest $2,000. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. All right.
Yeah, so the next piece of this, as we were forecasting up front, is really taking a look, you know, we spent a lot of time over the past few months, and I have had the opportunity to see some of this from afar, and some of it up close, so in the transition process. But we've talked about a lot of different numbers in a lot of different places, and have had some, you know, varying spreadsheets highlighting certain reductions and certain cuts and those kinds of things through this whole process. So one of the things we thought would be really helpful was to get all of this into one place so that we could actually see this progression of closing out FY18 and looking at how that closeout and state revenue is really impacting also FY19 and what that healthy, somewhat healthy bottom line looks like. And then what the FY19 projections look like and how that will impact as well the bottom line number. And with all of that, what does that actually mean for how we can start to chip away at that 1.5 million in cuts that we had to make as a committee and as a district? So what you have in front of you is essentially a summary of the budgeted, the actual, the impact on the overall bottom line, and then kind of a summary of some bullet points explaining each one of those pieces. And then at the end, a recommendation for where we can start to rebuild and start to chip away at that 1.5 million in cuts that we had to make. And so I want to be really clear. The money that we're talking about this evening is not new money. It's not above and beyond the budget that we don't have, so to speak, at this point. But in fact, it is looking at how do we start to shrink the amount of cuts that we had to make. So I want to be very, very clear that this is not extra money, this is not new money. This is through some very conservative budget work that was done over FY18, through conservative forecasting of numbers, and just some creative ways to try to pull together additional dollars to start to be able to restore some of the cuts that were made. So with all of that, we'll have Ms. Cobb go through the spreadsheet with everybody.
Thank you.
So do I read all the items? Okay. So we'll start from FY18 and we'll move to FY19. So FY18, let's start with state revenue. Chapter 70, House budget added $10 per pupil, so it is $17,830 for the district additional compared to the budget, the original budget. School choice, we budgeted $245,000 paying out, but we actually paid out $320,000, so we under budgeted $74,000. And transportation, at the beginning of the year, we budgeted $450,000 for transportation reimbursement at about 65% of state rate. That's because the 10-year average was only 62.97%, and considering we have school choice tuition payout and a very low E&D level, so we're on the conservative side on the projection. And also, the cherry sheet gave us a guideline of how much. So the cherry sheet was $443,000. So that's why we had a low number, but when we actually received the reimbursement, we received the $576,000, which is $126,660 more than we budgeted. So that's a good thing.
That's very good.
That's a very good thing. And next item is transportation. Homeless is on. It's $3,288. Circuit breaker. The state at the beginning they only reimburse estimate the reimbursement at 65%, but we actually received 72%. But the state law is to fund the district at 75%, so they still owe us some money.
Getting closer.
Yeah, getting closer, but compared to our original budget, it's $52,000 more than we budgeted. Medicaid, as we talked before, it's $73,805 that we can close to E&D. That is the number after we took out the $60,000 that we used to offset the budget. And the explanations is on the right, and it basically say we cannot count on Medicaid because we don't know which way it will go. The sewer project, we have $35,000 close to E&D. And FY year-end close balance, it's preliminary. We're still working on it. But the number will basically will be roughly the same. So for FY18, we underspended $51,960. From house insurance, special education, out-of-district tuition, transportation, substitute cost, and repair and the maintenance of the buildings. I can explain each item if you want me to. So just briefly, just briefly. So housing insurance, we actually, even we have a 6% rate increase from FY 17 to 18. We actually spent $1,059 less than last year's total. It's because of the enrollment change. So from Q3 to the end of the year, we can release $31,000 back to the budget. So next item is special education out-of-district tuition. So I don't know if you remember, we had 3 students move in at around the same time. between quarter 2 and quarter 3, and we budgeted 42,000 for tuition. But but the special education department managed to have them, keep them in the school programs for a couple months and try out. But when they move in, they require out-of-district service, so it didn't work out. So next year, they will be all out-of-district students. But this year, we reduced some, we saved some money by keeping them in-house, and we only had to pay 1 or 2 months of tuition for one of the students. So that's the big saving there. Substitute. So FY17 substitute total spending was $231,000, and FY18 actual cost was $160,000. So there are 71,000 less than last year. And the repairs and maintenance. So the town of Blackstone picked up the septic repair cost as a capital project, so that's over $25,000 savings for the school district. Not savings. We didn't want the septic to go anything wrong, but they released some of our pressure. So we froze budget in December, and basically all the head custodians, principals had to call me about any spendings they want. Any money they want to spend, and the head custodian, I don't know how many times they call me and they say they can work extra hours on the weekend to fix things themselves, to save on the contract service costs. Like little things like that adds up.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the major savings we had during the year.
Pretty good. So whatever that final money ends up being, it'll automatically transfer to Andy.
Yes. Yes. Move to FY19. The state revenue had the same thing. The House budget added $10 per pupil for Chapter 70, so it's $1,730 on Chapter 70. And transportation, because of this year's rate, the cherry sheet is more positive on the end result. So the school committee can have this cherry sheet. This is the estimate, but it estimated more money, close to $540,000 for the end of the year. So for us, we can add back $70,000 as the revenue, state revenue. And FY19 budget adjustment, a lot of items we already talked in two meetings ago.
And this
If
was
there's
essentially the
any
second
questions.
round, right, Ms. Cobb,
Correct.
of
Correct.
reduction, so this
Correct.
is the round 2 of that.
Yes, so if there's any questions, I can explain. All right, we can have more discussion later on, maybe.
Yep.
So the next item is the superintendent's recommendation, because we have a low E&D level, and we're going for bonding soon. So in order to have a better rate, we recommend to bring back E&D to at least the 2.5% of the budget.
Okay.
You want to take over from
Yeah,
here?
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Which would put us at the 391,940?
Yes.
The 2.5%? Okay.
Yes.
No, that is
That's
the
That's
2.5, yeah, so if you look
Yeah.
at the 2.5% of the budget is the $580,730.
Oh, okay.
Right, so the current E and D is at 379,525,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's with the recommendation of moving
Gotcha.
$201,205 into E and D. That would bring us up to the 2.5%.
Yes.
And so from there, there are essentially two different numbers we're looking at. And so underneath superintendent recommendations, you'll see two numbers in red. One is 391,940, and the other is 253,154. And so one of the higher number, the 391,940, takes into account the additional $138,786 from both Blackstone and Millville, depending upon what happens at the district-wide town meeting. So we've essentially laid out both scenarios in terms of what the number will actually look like. And so the second number is scenario number 2, which is $253,154 without the $138,786 from both towns' contribution. And so in terms of restoring and adding to the budget, what we are recommending at this point is that 2 elementary teaching staff be put back at the complex. 1 high school counselor, which is a dual licensed guidance counselor and school adjustment counselor. The Chromebooks for the one-to-one at the middle school, the STAR assessment system, and we'd like to add a different item to the budget, which is Focus Schools. They are a consulting group that works with school districts across the country to essentially put in place teacher instructional leadership teams, data cycles, and a whole series of essentially 7 framed out focus areas that will help schools really advance their work, in particular around instructional leadership and student achievement at all levels, teacher leadership and principal leadership. So this would be a new project for us to take on that costs $60,000, but that in fact would impact all 5 schools significantly so.
Is that teacher professional development?
Yeah, so professional development is part of that, but it's not just the PD that we think about sometimes that can be that one and done on a PD day, but it's actually some of it after school, some of it school embedded. And it's really framed around establishing a school-wide instructional focus area, 2 to 3 best practices. All this is driven from the teachers up. Data cycles so that we can progress monitor using STAR. I see some of our teachers in the audience that was talking about this at the last meeting, but really will help us get under the hood of data to help us use it to inform our planning and our teaching. And essentially an accountability system within our schools and within our classrooms where students are owning their learning, owning their data, and teachers are really facilitating the development of that work. And so it's interesting because it's hard to do one without the other. So without a strong assessment system, we certainly could do the other piece with Focus Schools, but we would be missing that backbone of data that we need, I think so desperately. It's something, there's a lot more work still to do with that. And so
Is that married to the STAR assessment system?
it's not, and you can do one without the other,
Yeah.
but having STAR as an internal assessment system is actually very beneficial because by nature of the system, it allows for progress monitoring, it allows for those 3 benchmarking periods, for flexible grouping, for teachers to use that information to help with their planning, to help with their student groups. But again, I think we have a lot of work still to do in that area, but it's a really nice marriage when the 2 pieces are together.
So from a teacher's perspective, in my classroom, how would I use this? Would it be like a daily thing? Would I have
Use the
support?
Focus Schools or use
Yeah,
the
the
STAR?
focus
Yeah.
school, or is that just purely like PD? I just feel like I need a little more clarification.
Sure, that's a great question. And so Focus Schools is more of a framework
Okay.
that encompasses 7 areas of focus, so to speak, that include teacher leadership development, includes the development creation of teacher instructional leadership teams or school-based instructional leadership teams, and then building an internal accountability system using data to drive your planning and your instruction. So it's more of a framework, and teachers would receive staff development again, sometimes after school, sometimes during the school day, teacher collaboration time or professional learning community time is key to this.
Okay.
Because those are a lot of the school-embedded time and structure that we'd put in place so that teachers can look at student work meaningfully, can plan their lessons accordingly, and using the data to help do that. So it's an ongoing process. but it encompasses essentially 7 different areas within the framework itself that we would do work with. It does start with creating a school-wide instructional focus, and then developing 2 to 3 school-based best instructional practices that the teachers actually drive from the ground up with the leadership, and they select those together. So it's a whole process that we'd go through.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's not a more concrete
No,
answer.
I
It's a
just-
big,
Yeah,
Yeah, but you have invited them to, or
Yes.
will invite them to join us, to give us more information.
absolutely. And so at this point, these are the areas that we are forecasting we would like to add back to the budget. And again, this is a conservative number, of course, based on what ends up happening at the district-wide town meeting on August 8th. But this is a start in terms of what we would like to restore. We also very much want to support the committee's recommendation of looking at certain, grade levels and class sizes and all of that. And I think by looking at these 2 elementary positions and restoring those, I think we can still meet the needs of the planning at the building level and what we need for, in particular, K and 1 at the complex, while also still supporting very much what the committee has asked for with that as well. So I think we can get kind of 2 pieces with that.
so each part of the complex, like JFK would receive 1 teacher back in
AFM would receive a
AFM.
teacher. That's
So we're
right.
looking at 2 more combined classrooms, possibly?
No, so at the complex, we won't have the design that we have at Millville Elementary for next year, which is the combined
Right.
classrooms. The complex will not have that.
Okay.
They are straight grade levels, K, 1, 2, et cetera. It would reduce
So
class size.
kindergarten is still 20, so I'm just wondering where those teachers are going, because I know 5th grade's at 27, 4th grade's at 30, so I'm just curious, and I'm sure parents want to know, and we have
Yep.
teachers here, they want to know where those 2 extra bodies are going to be going.
Sure, and so right now, the recommendation, so the school committee made a motion to have, and I want to get the language correct, but I believe it was to have 5 kindergarten teachers.
Yes.
And so we definitely understand that. That keeps class sizes at 20, but it puts first grade at 28, which is problematic. And we know that kids need to leave K with very strong foundational literacy skills in terms of those decoding and being able to read and starting to, to be writing. But first grade is really where that takes off and that acceleration happens. So having 28 students in a grade 1 classroom is equally as problematic. So we would, if we were going to have 5 K teachers, then we would want to put that additional teacher in first grade so that we could get those class sizes down. And then on the other side of the complex, we would add a teacher to grade 3, which would get those numbers down as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So at this point, not knowing what the final budget will be,
Right.
these are recommendations on a number that we will have shortly, we hope. Right.
Any questions about any other additional?
So I do have, I'm full of questions today. Okay,
Questions are
under the FY19 budget adjustment, the technician for 40,000, would that be a tech teacher?
That's still cut.
Yeah, these are
That's
still
Still
cut.
cut,
That's still
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
That was the
Yep.
person to help
D-
lower
which-
the response rate for
Yep.
that, but that's still cut.
And so I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because what we wanted to do was create a document that pulled all of those separate pieces into one place.
Yeah.
And then in the notes section, lay out whether, for instance, some things were paid out in FY18, some things we were able to restore because we didn't need, certain things, and then some were straight cuts. That, so all of this in that FY19 budget adjustment was in that second round of discussion that we had around how to get that number at 1.5 million to that number.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, well, we will certainly continue revisiting. Just to remind everyone, we will, on that August 8th meeting, the district-wide meeting, we will immediately follow that meeting with a school committee meeting. So, it could be very late at night, but, so that we could certify a budget number, hopefully, that evening. And again, we'll need to have a committee meeting for warrant, but we'll move on that. Okay, it's still you.
All right, item E, Assistant Superintendent position realignment. So, as everyone is aware, we are very sad to see Ms. Cobb leaving at the end of the month. I've had a very, very short amount of time to work with her, but we have had a lot of fun dealing with some pretty heavy issues, as you can imagine. I definitely can say, having worked with business managers across the Commonwealth, I think Ms. Cobb is one of the best. And so it will be a huge loss for us. But
Yes, it will.
we believe in making lemonade out of lemons. And so what I am requesting to the committee is that we realign Ms. Cobb's position to an assistant superintendent position. I'd like to explain some of my rationale and thinking for that. And I want to be clear, this is not a brand new salary. This is using the resources that we have that we've allocated for a business manager and adding a small amount to that to bring on board an assistant superintendent. And so some of the rationale, I think the major pieces of rationale behind this is that BMR, although a small district, is very complex, as all of you know much better than I, and I am quickly learning. But with all of that being said, we cannot afford to have positions that are siloed. In larger districts, you might have a director of finance, a director of curriculum, a director of data, a whole kind of series of individuals that are taking on those responsibilities. In smaller districts, we don't really have that luxury. We all wear many, many hats, and that is by no means a complaint. It's embraced and it's welcomed. Sometimes it just means we have to shift our strategy a little bit. And so with all of that, what I've done is put together a job description that really looks at the major responsibilities of our current business manager and the great work that Ms. Cobb has done, but also looks at some of the key responsibilities for the former assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction, I think was the actual title. And I created a new goal for this position, which is outlined in the job description up top, but essentially married the two positions together. And I want to be clear, the main responsibilities of the assistant superintendent are in fact still finance, MSBA, all the procurement facilities, it's still those pieces. But this would allow for a second instructional leader in the district to help create district-wide goals, to help with the implementation and monitoring of all of those goals, to ensure that all of the dollars and cents, so our fiscal plan matches right up against the strategic plan that we'll be developing, and that we not only have a plan that directly aligns the finances with the teaching and learning goals, but there's actually an accountability piece to ensure that we've got the checks and balances to show that every penny we're spending is leading to improved student outcomes. Because as far as I'm concerned, that is what this whole budget is about. It's about ensuring that we have the right academic plan and the right teacher support plan in place so that teachers can do the best of what they do every day with the resources they need to help students learn at high levels. And so with that, I'm looking to add a little bit of, it's a bit of an understatement, but to the current responsibilities of the business manager, which we know are significant at that. But I'm also looking to add additional accountability to this position. So this position also requires a superintendent, assistant superintendent license, and they need to be a licensed business manager. And so while that sounds like a very tall order, it is. I believe firmly that it is an honor and privilege to work in Blackstone-Millville Regional. And I think it will take some time, but I think we can find the right person to fill this position should the school committee approve it. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the alignment. I do want to post the position between $120,000 and $130,000. And the additional funding for that, we were able to save some dollars in unemployment that we're not going to need, which is good news. And so I think we can realign some of those resources that already exist within the budget to the existing salary that exists for the business manager and really elevate that position to help accelerate the agenda of the district for very short money.
Would somebody like to entertain a motion to approve the position?
So, sorry, I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Sarah and seconded by Karen. to have an assistant superintendent of schools with responsibility as a licensed superintendent, assistant superintendent, and have a Massachusetts DESE certification as a business manager. Is there any discussion? Questions? Concerns? Nothing. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the assistant superintendent of schools position signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Yeah, post away.
Great, thank you. That will
Please come
post-
join us if you have those credentials.
Please. That will post tomorrow.
Okay.
And my last item is just an update on the interim special education director process. And so at the last meeting, there were some questions around doing an internal posting only. And so I thought I'd take a moment just to clarify. And so there was a strong rationale for doing only an internal posting. Coming in new as a superintendent to the district and, learning a lot about the two communities, learning a lot about our classrooms, students, where we are with achievement, budget challenges, of course, that we're still teasing out, although I think we've got a good handle on all those pieces. One of the components that made me the most uneasy, to be frank, is the special education, because there is a significant amount of compliance issues that need to be in place to make sure that the district is not liable and that services are being provided as required by each student's individual education plan, and that process is being adhered to closely. And so while I heard very clearly during the interview process at every phase and during the transition that we need to take a very close look at special education, and I could not agree more with that. What has me uneasy about posting for that interim position external is that would be one more senior leadership position that we would have to onboard and get to know students, families, IEPs, service delivery, programs that we offer, both out of district, internal programs. And I think before I can really get into the quality control of all of this work to see if we are in fact offering the quality programming that our kids deserve and should have, I need to learn those different pieces of the work. So we posted internally for now. I do not have a candidate to bring before the school committee for approval or review at this time, but I hope at the August school committee meeting by the 16th, which is the next official. I know we're going to have the budget meeting after the district-wide town meeting on the 8th. I hope to have a fully licensed internal candidate in front of you. If we do not have a candidate licensed internal at that time that we think is the right fit, I will post external for an interim special ed director. And so that's a little bit about the short-term process. The long-range process, this position will be redesigned, and we'll be looking for approval from the committee probably late fall, early winter, for an executive director of student services that will oversee special education, all social emotional learning, 504 work, OCR work, ELL, McKinney-Vento. It'll be a large position. I cannot underscore enough, again, the district our size. I kind of, share with colleagues the difference between a smaller suburban or rural district like ours and an urban is we have a leadership team of 7 people versus a leadership team in larger districts of upwards of 40 people. All of that work still happens, right? Just in BMR, we have 80 English language learners instead of 800, right? But the same processes and the same regulatory pieces are still in place. There's just far fewer leaders to do the work, which again is not at all a complaint, it's just the reality of it. So when we redesign these positions, we're gonna go big because there's a lot of responsibilities for all of us to take on to ensure kids are getting the services that they deserve and need. So just wanted to forecast the short-term plan for the interim and then the long-range plan for where this position will eventually go.
Thank you. School committee forum. Bethany?
Sure. I'm hoping that the students are having a great summer. that they're making wise choices, they're being smart, and that they're enjoying their remaining 7 weeks of summer vacation. But who's counting?
Are you counting down?
My own children
You
have
just
been
stressed
sick.
me out. That's all
Only
we have
7
to
more
say.
weeks.
No budget?
Thank you.
Sarah?
Just, I'd like to thank Wen for all the work that she's done and for teaching me all about the DESI websites and spreadsheets. And just best wishes, and we'll miss you.
Yes.
I know you have a couple more meetings, so I'll say it again then.
Hope so. If not, you're coming back.
Just that I hope parents are paying attention and gonna come out and have their voices heard to help us, with the budget. And as soon as we get that meeting, we'll get it out all the ways we need to. And just that everybody should come out and have their voices heard.
Nothing today.
Okay. And I have nothing other than to wish Wen also the best, but we'll do it again, and to welcome Jason again. We are very excited about the way the district can move forward under your guidance, so looking forward to a lot of that. Our next meeting will be, of course, the district-wide meeting on August 8th with a school committee meeting immediately following. We have an August 9th workshop for setting school committee goals with MASC, and that is confirmed for August 9th from 3 to 7. And we are still looking for a site to have that before we post that. And then August 16th, our regular scheduled meeting will be here at the middle school. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss personnel issue, not to return to officially adjourn from there, so not to return to the public meeting.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Sarah, second by Bethany to go into executive session. Roll call. Sarah?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Bethany?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
Jane, yes. Okay, this meeting portion is adjourned, and we'll go into executive session. We are gonna move to the other one.